Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and today I have 5 stories for you from the YouKaren subreddit. This story comes to us from Help, I Hate Texas. I quit. Karen reported me to HR for it. Let's jump right in. I was the director of sales ops for a $40 million a year software company. Karen was on my team. We processed purchase orders. Karen had a small vehicle accident that put her in a neck brace. She also needed once weekly physical therapy appointments and had some restrictions on duties, all of which I accommodated no issue. Despite meeting her needs, Karen decided coming into work was optional. HR noticed that she was repeatedly absent from work for 3 to 4 days at a time, multiple weeks in a row. They did not give me details, but told me documentation from her doctor did not justify all of these absences. To make matters worse, Karen would never give notice that she was going to be out, and sometimes would just no-show without ever calling, nor indicate how long she would be out. HR eventually told Karen she needed to either attend work more regularly or get a doctor to sign off on short-term disability. This worked for me. I would rather Karen take extended time off, so I could get a temp to take her responsibilities than be absent frequently with no warning. Karen's original doctor would not document a need for disability, so she found a doctor who would. She bragged to the team that she found a doctor that would sign off on anything. So Karen went on disability, and I was able to get a temp to cover her until she returned. Even though coworkers who kept in contact told me Karen was going to clubs and dancing and such, I didn't care. That was between her and HR. For now, at least, the work was getting done. The time period of Karen's short-term disability eventually expired. At this point, she either had to come back to work or go on long-term disability so I could replace her permanently. Karen's sign anything doctor would not give her documentation for long-term disability, so Karen grudgingly came back to work. She quickly went back to being absent all of the time. She also refused to do even the basic duties of her job. I went to HR and told them things were not working out and that I wanted to replace her. They were on board with this plan. HR brought Karen in for the talk, but Karen flipped out and said she would sue. Suddenly, HR was not on board. Didn't matter that Karen really had no legal standing. Just the threat of a lawsuit made HR decide it was more important to make Karen happy than to let me have a functional ops department. In one instance, I asked Karen to do purchase order review, and she complained to HR about me bossing her around. I'm her boss. HR told me that I could no longer give assignments or work duties to Karen. WTF? When I said that was fine, as long as they let me hire someone else to do Karen's job, they refused to give me a requisition for a new employee. This went on for months, and Karen quickly learned she could complain to HR about anything and get her way. You would not believe the accommodation she was given. Meanwhile, she made no effort to hide that she was not really injured anymore, was barely coming to work, but was still getting paid. She even encouraged other team members to take advantage of this loophole she had found. Then, one day during month-end crunch, Karen had not come in or called. So I called and asked her if she planned to work that day. It was a simple question carefully crafted to be neutral in tone. She told HR that I had harassed her with my phone call. I got written up, so I immediately put in my 2 weeks notice. Not gonna deal with my career being effed by a woman who had worked maybe 6 days in a month, especially when I gave 60 to 70 hours a week to the company. With me suddenly gone, the sales ops fell apart. Purchase orders were not going through. To address this emergency, company senior VP took over sales ops until my replacement could be found. HR was certainly not going to tell this guy he could not give Karen duties, so Karen actually had to work. About a month after I quit, Karen got my home number and called me, furious that she now had to actually work. She told me she was going to report me to HR for a company I no longer worked for. And sure enough, she did exactly that. I kept in touch with members of my old team, and they told me she was laughed out of the HR office. But here's where it gets absurd. Karen called me again, cursing, screaming, and threatening me, and demanded I give her the contact information for HR at my new company. She was going to report me to a department that had no idea who she was, nor had any jurisdiction over her complaints. The stupidity was unbelievable, and I giggled at her right up until I hung up and blocked her. Last I heard, Karen was finally fired, got 0 unemployment benefits, and ended up moving her and her kids in with her mom. Okay, does anyone else here think that the HR people should be fired with cause here? Because if you don't show up and you don't call, that's a no-call, no-show, and that's grounds for termination. Any place that I've worked for has even been a little bit lax on that. They said you could no-call, no-show 2 times, but the 3rd time, don't bother coming back. And don't get me wrong, those first 2 times, you would get raked over the coals by your boss when you came back in. Seems to me like they gave Karen more than enough leeway here, and Karen wasn't doing anything to help herself. This story comes to us from FoxLover96. My Karen aunt is jealous of my 3-year-old cousin getting cranial surgery. Let's jump right in. I can't make this crap up. My aunt has always been a jealous and entitled creature who always tries to comb through a tragic situation to find some factor that doesn't relate to her at all to make it all about her, regardless of the situation. And if she can't find any factor, she gets mad and makes it directly known that she is the one who should be pitied. Just recently, my cousin's son had to go through a rather serious and terrifying surgery where they had to crack his skull open. He is 3 years old and he was born after 4 miscarriages. So obviously, the family was on pins and needles hoping for a successful surgery and fast and painless recovery for him. Except for my aunt. Not sure if the idea of her or her own grandson not being the one getting all the attention and positive thoughts is what threw her over the edge, despite her and her grandson being completely fine, or what, but her response was nothing short of disgusting. In the family group chat that mom and aunt are a part of, all the siblings are, which I believe is about 6 people. My one uncle was sending updates all day as he had driven out to be there the day of his grandson's procedure. So, of course, everyone was replying anxiously for updates, except my aunt. So, she took it upon herself to text my mom how annoying it was to constantly be receiving text messages from everyone about my cousin. My mom reminded her that this toddler was going through a super intense and possibly deadly surgery, and that everyone was nervous. My aunt then made it apparent to point out that this kid always has problems when anyone brings him up. This is because my cousin was born quite a few months premature, so of course he has some issues going on. My mom was already mad at this and reminded her that if this was her grandson, she'd want everyone to give her and her son and his child nice comments and thoughts and prayers, and she shouldn't be acting this way about a toddler getting surgery. My aunt's only other response was that everyone was being over dramatic about him, and it wasn't that serious. At that point, I almost darn near lost it. I despise this woman with a passion and a half. I can't imagine being so self-absorbed that you tell someone a 3-year-old skull being cracked open like a coconut is over dramatic, and she wonders why nobody talks to her. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Azura12. It says, "To be honest, I would have said fine and just created a new group chat without her. If she doesn't want to be part of a conversation that is not centered around her, so be it. Just create a new group chat and mute the other one. Some would suggest just leaving the other group, but then that little message saying X has left will appear, and that will start even bigger drama. Just start a new group and periodically just send a random LOL or something partially relevant to the original one, but never fully engage. Eventually, she will understand she is being ignored for a reason." I think another way to deal with this one would be to take the petty route, because that aunt was messaging OP's mom and telling OP's mom only that they didn't want to receive those messages. I think OP's mom should have taken a screenshot of that and popped it into the group chat with all the rest of the family. Let them see the aunt's true colors. then you can pretty much guarantee that aunt will not receive any annoying messages from anybody in the family ever again, or any messages at all. This story comes to us from Material Mailbox. Concert Karen tries to stick up for me and my friend. Let's jump right in. To set the scene, this was at a sold-out show at an outdoor music venue in Austin. There are no seats and it's just about 2,000 people standing on a big lawn in front of the stage. My buddy and I get there right as the opener was finishing, and we maneuver to a spot that's in the middle of the audience. Not super close to the stage, but not far either, within a fairly dense crowd. About 5 minutes after we settle into our spot, there's a couple that's doing the same thing, just trying to find their way to a spot of their own. And I move out of the way to let them through, and my friend does the same, but in the opposite direction. They end up settling there right by us, kind of in between us. They probably had no way of even knowing I was with my buddy, because it was dark and because I wasn't even talking to him at the time or interacting with him in any way. We were just sipping our beers and waiting for the headliner to come on. Instead of immediately moving back towards my friend or him towards me, we just stayed put for a bit, and I fully intended on moving back to him at some point before the headliner started, which was an extremely easy task. Again, we had already maneuvered through a bunch of people, and now he was only about 4 feet away. Easy task. Well, Karen is also very close to us, is at the concert alone, and about 5 minutes later, she decides to take it upon herself to point out to the couple that they separated my friend and me, that was a very rude thing to do, and that I'm not trying to be a jerk, but just wanted to let y'all know that you're being jerks. Really, just verbally berating them and trying to start an argument. She was, in fact, being a huge jerk to them. Otherwise, she would have approached the situation in a much friendlier manner and in much less aggressive tone. Or, better yet, just minded her own business and kept her mouth shut. Keep in mind, my friend and I had not interacted with Karen at all up until this point, not even making eye contact or noticing her. And throughout this unpleasant interaction, we didn't interact with either Karen or the poor couple at all. After about 30 seconds of listening to Karen berate this couple, I moved easily back to my friend and we just kind of watched the whole interaction in bewilderment for the next minute or so. For about 10 minutes after their interaction ended, the girl in the couple was visibly upset, and the guy was talking to her and trying to comfort her. Still right near me, my buddy, and Karen. I'm sure Karen noticed too, but of course, she didn't apologize or say anything else to them. Eventually, the couple moved away. Very possible that Karen just completely ruined the concert for them for absolutely no reason at all, other than to be a Karen. Okay, I'm gonna need some other opinions on this one because I'm listening to this one and finding that OP didn't stand up for themselves, didn't say anything to Karen or the couple. What's up with that? Even a quick, hey Karen, it's okay, I'm not bothered by them would have worked. Or if they didn't want to talk to Karen, they could have consoled the poor girl that Karen was berating when they saw that they were visibly upset by it. This story comes to us from Pabst Malone. You didn't have to leave, but now you do. Let's jump right in. A recent post reminded me of this one that I had stuffed so far back in my brain that I almost forgot it happened. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. Many moons ago, young me was working at a large retail chain, and I worked in pretty much every department. But this particular day, I was working as a cashier, my least favorite role that I filled, and we were decently steady, no more than 3 deep in a line at a time. My manager came over and flipped my lane light off, saying it was time for my break. I was checking out one woman who had her items on the belt already. A lady behind her was starting to unload her cart, and the lady behind her moved to a different lane. Sweet, 5 minutes and I'm done, I thought to myself. Boy, was I wrong. The second woman, our hero Karen of this tale, stated, "I'm not moving," to which I replied, "Hey, no big deal, you're fine." "I'm not effing moving," she said again. "Ma'am, I didn't say you had to. I'll take care of you as soon as I'm done with the guest in front of you." About 30 seconds pass, and I'm just about done with the lady in front, just running her coupons and such, and I heard loud banging. I look back, and Karen is slamming her crap on the belt, and I give her a sort of, "the F are you doing?" sort of look. And then she starts ripping crap off of the little check lane shelf, gum, mints, last little minute type of crap, and throwing it on the floor, and starts just shrieking unintelligible noises. She then slams her coffee on the ground and says, "I need someone to ring me up right effing now." I set my little lane light to flashing, usually to indicate need for manager override or some other small issue, but AP was already on their way. She ended up getting escorted out, and I had to reset the shelf and mop up her coffee mess. I haven't worked in retail since, thank goodness. Ah yes, the typical Karen, the full-grown person who is having a complete toddler breakdown. I sincerely hope that when AP came and removed Karen from the store, that they trespassed her so she could never come back again. I'm really happy to hear stories of people like this being removed and not letting them get away with what they're doing. It really wasn't that long ago that most retail stores had that customer is always right mentality, and somebody who did something like this, the management would be apologizing to them regardless of what was done, and they would still be allowed to buy their stuff and leave the store. I'm really glad to see even just a hint of giving these people some accountability. This next story comes to us from Magnetic Doorknob. Not my fault you can't park, Karen. Let's jump right in. This just happened maybe an hour ago, so I thought I would share my tale with you fine folk. I'm pretty anal when it comes to how I park. Drives me nuts if I'm not straight and in between the lines. I have a backup camera on my car, so there's no reason I shouldn't know when I'm not parked right. On to the story. My girlfriend is getting her butt kicked by a cold, so I went to the store to get her a few things. I see a spot close to the store, so I back my car in and park. I realize the car next to me has their front tires over the line and was parked crooked. There isn't enough space for me to get out on my side, even though I'm pretty centered and straight. I was tired and didn't feel like finding another parking spot, so I just climbed over and got out my passenger side. I lock my car and start to head towards the store. The following conversation happened. "Excuse me, you need to move your car. You're parked too close on purpose. You got out on your passenger side." I pointed to her car. "Your front tires are over the line. I'm in my spot properly." "Over here," talking about her driver's door that is almost on top of the line. "Over here, I have space. Now move your car." Or you could move yours and park right. I head into the store and glance over my shoulder just to make sure she didn't try anything with my car. She was backing up and straightening her car in the space. It's a small victory, but I love a bit of parking lot justice. Okay, so the comment section on this one is really divided. Half of the people here say that OP did the right thing parking straight in the parking spot, getting out their passenger side, and going on about their business. Half of the people in the comments say that OP is the Karen because they parked too close to the other car, even though the other car was parked improperly. I'm just gonna sit on the fence on this one. My legs are definitely dangling to one particular side, but I'd love to know what you all think, so comment down below. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.